Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Naked Truth. Trisha Hershberger here. Yes, I'm naked. Also, my hair's dry and I do have some makeup on, and that's because I'll be frank, I had to retake the beginning of this video. I interviewed for the first time ever a boy on the Naked Truth, and I got nervous and had some technical difficulties. So this video will cut back into my actual interview with IGN's Greg Miller. Welcome, Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg Miller from the internet. I worked for IGN for 7.5 years, and then of course I have my YouTube site, GameOverGreggy, where we do a whole bunch of different content.
All right, now before we jump into this week's topic, I need to thank Steve, Jacob, Dominic, Eric, Romeo, Pat, Matthew, Lewis, Patricia, Michael, Lawrence, Julia, Prescott and Kristen, Kenny, Kim, and Richard for sending in their naked vlogs. You guys rock. I also want to thank Robert Gomez, who helped me reword that quote I was trying to figure out in a non-religious way. And Robert said, you can only love a person as much as you love the person you hate the most. And that's a good fix for it, so thank you. Okay, so let's get back to Greg.
Hey, that's right, it's me. But thanks
Yay.
to all those people. Dang, you got a supportive community.
Yeah, the naked army is strong. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to get naked on the internet, like yourself.
Everybody's ready. Oh, I know. You didn't even ask me. I told you I needed to come on the show naked.
That's 100% true. I got a picture of a very sexy picture of Greg Miller shirtless, and he said, I want to get naked on your show.
Right, that was live from RTX in front of like 400, 500 kids, so yeah. Taking off my shirt is what I'm known for on the internet now.
I love it. Okay, so is this your first time being naked on the internet?
Yes, yeah. No, that's right, that's right. I've been close before. I have this show called Up at Noon on IGN, and one time on that we did a twerking joke where I wore these Japanese basically panties my girlfriend had bought me. And
oh my goodness.
When I came in and we did this scene where I twerked in them, I came out and I said, well, how was that? And my producer said, we're probably going to have to blur your bulge. And I was like, yeah, ha, ha, ha. And then they really had to blur my bulge because, like, when I'm bent over twerking, there was a lot of action and motion.
Oh, boy.
But even then I was wearing something as opposed to now.
As opposed to right now. Does it feel a little weird?
No, you make it pretty easy. You make it look easy. You do this all the time. I always see your videos go up. So it's not. It'll be weird if Colin opens the door. If Colin comes into the guest room here where we do the GameOverGreggy show, that would be weird.
That would be totally weird. And you know what? I do it because it still makes me feel weird. So it's nice to hear you say that I make it look easy. Because
the thing is, for you though, you have more to hide. Like, you know what I mean? I've just got to like I'm just letting it all hang out here, but like, down here is where the action is. You got to make sure. But that's a big berth. I got a lot of ground, I can cover here.
I'm actually more nervous because I have a boy on the show right now. Is that weird?
Really? Yeah, that's weird. It's not like I'm in the house with you.
I know, you're in your house. For the record, right. Greg's in his own house, everybody.
Yeah, you just see me in the background, like, talking, like, we're back to back.
All right, so, Greg, let's get back to talking about the internet. And you can talk about nudity on the internet if you like, but what is the internet to you, as someone who's been in it for years?
Oh, man, I mean, the internet, for better or worse, is one awesome community, right? Like, I mean, there's all these undersides and horrible things to it when we talk about comments and, trolling and all these different things, but when I think of the internet, right, I think of freedom, and I think of, like, I remember when it first came around and how it made such an impact on me, right? Like, I feel like I was always, that token kid in my group of friends that was the nerd and loved comics and loved video games. And my friends tolerated video games and comics and would feign interest, but they liked different things. So I was that one nerd, and that's an isolating feeling, you know what I mean? And, like, you look at things like PAX or RTX, like, that's the chance for everybody to come together and celebrate being a nerd. And so I had Comic-Con and stuff like that, but even that, once a year, is a hard thing to have. And then when the internet came, like, I remember the first time I joined Justice League role-playing group, and we'd go into chat rooms and pretend to be superheroes and talk, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm Superboy, so I'm doing this, and and, like, that was an awesome feeling. And now it's something we all take for granted. It's definitely something you don't think that much about, but still, no matter how niche your interest is, there's a group out there ready to talk to you about it, and you can go to message boards and post and have it there forever. You know what I mean? Even if it's just something that somebody's going to check in once a month, they're going to find it and talk to you about what you love. And so I think the good still outweighs the bad on the internet. It's just what I was talking about, right, is that there's a vocal minority that is very mean and doesn't like things that I'll put on my YouTube channel or on IGN, right? And they go in the comments and talk about how much they hate me or whatever. And so when you only read that, it feels like they're winning, but in reality, there's this silent majority that, you know, doesn't come around. It comes around, consumes all your content, loves you, and then bounces. Doesn't say anything, doesn't comment, doesn't tweet. And then there's just these negative people who do.
Yeah. Okay. So, Greg, do you have a favorite website that you like to frequent?
I mean, yeah, it's evolved over the years, right? Like, I mean, to be a total hack, like when I was on the outside of the video game industry, I loved One Up. Like, One Up was where I was all about, because the community was so cool. You could go, and that's where I had my first blog, and that's where, you know, you could make groups and join them, and everybody would join your nerdy thing. Like, you know what I mean? I made a, you know, at the time, which I thought was ridiculous, made a fan club on the One Up for Portillo's Hot Dogs, this hot dog restaurant I love, that I would later go on to be a big part of, have my wiener dog name it after. But at the time, it was just this little thing, and it was so mind-boggling when we had like 20 members. I was like, this is awesome, you know what I mean? And so now,
all that hot dog love coming together.
Well, that was the thing. If you're from the Chicagoland area, you know Portillo's and you love Portillo's. So it's that simple. You know, I shouldn't have been so surprised. And of course, now they're going to be nationwide soon. Cross my fingers. So it'll be great.
We'll have them here in California.
Right. Well, there's one in Buena Park. Like, nice. I go there every chance I get. After E3, that's the pilgrimage afterwards. The next day, we all go to. Anyways, I'm getting off track. So then talking about, you know, I mean, right now, I mean, obviously IGN because it's my job, but I also still like the community we've fostered there. Same thing, sure. A lot of blogs, a lot of great kids there, and then of course YouTube. And I mean, the biggest I visit every day, which is weird to say because to me it doesn't even feel like a site, right? It's Twitter. Like, Twitter is this.
Totally.
I think I take for granted when I think about sites I go to every day, because I literally go to Twitter every 15 minutes at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say, as lame as this sounds for me, Facebook, but it's only because I live so far away from my entire family and most of my friends that I like to like stalk what everybody else is doing. So would you say there's a reason you prefer Twitter over Facebook?
Yeah, totally. It's the brevity. You know what I mean? Okay. The thing is, I'm lucky enough, and so are you, right? We have this amazing fan base that wants to talk to us, and on Twitter or on Facebook, people will send you novels. They will send you so much information that it's impossible to read it and deconstruct it and give them a thoughtful response. Like, and so what I find myself doing is I get in these windows where I want to talk to you and I want to write back to you and I want to answer your questions, but you've asked too much. And so I say, I'll put that off and do it later. And then my Facebook inbox gets out of control. Whereas Twitter, it's 140 characters. You ask me a question, I can respond in 140 characters and we're done. Not in a bad way, but in a concise way, point to point. Here's my answer, here's your question, so on and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have, like you said, the brevity. It's nice to have that so that you don't have any TLDRs from Great Aunt Kay and all that.
Right, yeah. I can be responsive and quick and answer you and go and feel like I feel like I get into my Twitter ats and I can plow through them and actually give you the answers you're looking for and give you the comment you want, whereas in Facebook it's impossible.
Yeah. So do you have a least favorite website? Like, the bane of the internet lives here for you?
Oh, you know what? Like, the Superficial is funny. It's hilarious, but it's always one of those things, like, somebody will talk to me about the Superficial, or my girlfriend reads it once in a while, and you pop on there and it's like, it's a funny site, don't get me wrong, but it's just always like their top 10 stories are just people in bikinis. And it's just one of those, like, is this what we are? Like, I hate this part of it, you know what I mean? And, like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate looking at good-looking people, male and female, but it's just like, there's this and a snarky comment, and they have, like, 14 action shots of Mila Kunis doing something in a bikini, and, like, they're like, look how dumb she looks in this. And I'm like, I look dumb in every photo. I don't like this. Don't be mean to people.
Be a nice person, Superficial.
Right. Come on. Change your whole site because you're being too snarky.
So speaking of being snarky and being a jerk on the internet, I hear from you that you like ending trolls. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I try not to. This was a big thing for my New Year's resolution of doing it less. Because what happens basically is, you know, there's like the bell curve when you're thinking, like, you know, internet popularity and like how much content you're making, and then like that's when the trolls really start to come out. And so,
is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing.
I'm working on it. I'll give you the exclusive when I get it all worked out. But like the more you do, the more people get angry and the more they want to talk crap at you. You know what I mean? And so I got used to it. Like as soon as I started at IGN, I reviewed this video game called Lair. I gave it a 4.9, and it was a Sony exclusive, and everybody wigged out. And that was I still have a little folder in my inbox of Lair hate mail that people sent me.
Don't you dare disagree with me on the internet.
Right, about this game I haven't played yet. Don't tell me this game I was totally looking forward to isn't that great, because you are clearly wrong and I hate you and you should die. So I got used to that by trial by fire, but then when Twitter came around, it got more personal. I felt like, you know what I mean? And like, it's one thing to sit there and be at home or in the comments on a giant article and say, oh, this person sucks, but to seek me out and at me and tell him, like, there was this one guy who's like, oh, you're such a fat cunt. Why don't you suck on a tailpipe and die? And I was,
What?
and then,
I'm sorry.
No. I just said cunt, so it's fine. And so I clicked through his profile, and these are the ones that get me fired up. Is I click through his profile, and he's like, I live in Manchester, England, and I'm an aspiring video game journalist. And it's like,
oh,
how are you this short-sighted not to realize how small the internet is? You know what I mean? Like how small the industry is. Because for a long time, I kept a list on my phone of people that will never work at IGN. This person said this, and I will nail them. You know,
I totally have that list. Like, if I ever get the opportunity to work a job with these people, I'm going to insist that I won't work with them. There's a blacklist.
Have you ever run into somebody on the blacklist? Like, and it's happened?
No, not yet. Have you?
Oh my God, yeah, it happened like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was one of the craziest things. Because like everybody knows how crazy I am about it, so I vet these people who apply for jobs, and I go fucking crazy about it, where I'm at, in quotes everybody's names and reviews and IGN and sucks and yada yada yada. And this guy came up and he got in the rotation. I found it, and sure enough, he was talking crap on my Dead Space 2 review, which is like another polarizing lightning pole issue for fans and haters of me. And
you know what's funny? I Google searched Greg Miller naked specifically for this, and your Dead Space review came up.
Of course it did. It's like I'm known for chicken wings, video games, Dead Space, and Portillo. Like there's this thing in Oreos now. No, so sure enough, I find all this stuff of this guy talking trash about me, about IGN, all these different things. And so I just printed them out, put them in a manila envelope, and we went to lunch, and it was me, Damon Hatfield, and our editor-in-chief at the time, Casey Lynch, and then this guy who was interviewing. And so we sat down for lunch, we ordered the food, Damon and Casey are asking questions after question after question, and I'm not saying anything. And literally as they put the food down, Casey goes to me, he's like, Greg, you've been really quiet. Do you have anything to ask? And I look this guy in the eye, just like I'm looking at the camera now, and I go, what do you think of me? And like there's this pregnant pause, and Damon's across from me, and I don't even break eye contact. Damon's across from me, and goes, "Did you just say what is he?" And I'm like, "Yeah. What do you think of me?" And the guy starts. He's like, "Well, I enjoy your Up at Noon. Like it's real funny." I'm like, "What about my Dead Space review?" And like all the color drained from his face, and he's like, it was a while ago. I don't remember what I said. I'm like, "Oh, let me refresh your memory." And boom,
oh my God!
On the table, and I read, and like this, it was over. Like it was like this nuclear explosion, because like it wasn't even that he was, saying how much I sucked or whatever. He started like, oh yeah, I haven't trusted IGN since X, Y, and Z, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, and like we had all eaten our food, and he hadn't even touched his, and I was like, I've done it. And I'll never forget walking there because I was shaking with adrenaline, not like fear, but like I can't.
You were anxious.
This is finally happening. I am finally gonna get to live the dream of going, because everybody talks shit about IGN. It seems at least once or twice, right?
Oh, whatever.
Your number, people throw rocks at things that shine, right? It's the same thing that Coke doesn't talk shit on Pepsi. Pepsi talks shit on Coke.
Well, and if they're on your site in the first place enough to talk shit, obviously they're supporting your site.
Yeah, exactly. I love the people who show up in comments on every Up at Noon to tell me how bad Up at Noon is. I'm like, yep. Tell all your friends that it's terrible and that they need to come comment and tell me it's terrible too. Like, you're missing the equation here on how I judge success. You know what I mean? So there's that, but then there's just, random people who will, like, for a while I'd search my name in quotes, because like, a lot of cowards on the internet, they'll talk crap about you, but they won't at you. They'll just say, oh, Greg Miller's the worst. So I'd search for it and then find it and be like, hey, what did you not like? And then they back down, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was having a bad day and I didn't even take it out on you. There's all these different people, and there was this one kid who he tweeted at me again. So he called this down on himself, but he tweeted at me and said something about how I was terrible and fat and gay and all these horrible things about me.
Right.
And I clicked through on his, and his Twitter profile picture was him with a dead duck in his mouth, like he had gone hunting and then put the dead duck in his mouth. And then his information was a Bible verse, and it was like, you search it and it's about being nice and kind and peaceful. And so I took all of his information and put it onto a blog where it was basically like, I'll say his name was, John Doe. It was like, the title was like Future Employers of John Doe, Atlanta, Georgia, because he was from Atlanta, Georgia. And then I kept putting that information in the blog post so that anytime somebody would Google him and where he was from, this would come up, showing what poor judgment he has and the fact that he wants to just take a shot at somebody he's never met before. We've never, you know what I mean? All these different things that he thought this was an okay reaction to do.
Yeah, you're totally going to have to teach me how to do that to people, because I mean, we all try to not let the comments get to us, but there are times when, like, sometimes it just breaks through and there's nothing you can do about it, and just it enrages. Like, you're mad at yourself for letting it get you mad.
See, the thing for me is that I always get mad when there's the hypocrisy on the other end. If you're just a dick, you're just a dick, and I don't care. But like when I click through and you have a Bible verse, there's this one time I click through and it's another guy who's like, I'm an aspiring video game journalist and he's in college. And so I took all his information and found out where he worked and what school he went to, and then emailed his dean with all this information. I'm like, hey, you need to teach kids this isn't cool. Like they don't, like the excuse I always talk about in where I give the youngins the credit with it all, right, is the fact that, when my girlfriend will watch the Kardashians or anything bad on TV, right, you're like, oh, this sucks. I hate this show. These people are so bad. And you say it and it's done. And then one time we were watching The Office, the second to last season, which was really bad, I thought. And I started tweeting something along the lines of like, NBC needs to take at The Office out back and put it down. And my girlfriend saw me tweet it, or type it, and she's like, yeah, that's right. But then I started deleting it. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is what people do. This is the disconnect. You know what I mean? Someone worked hard on The Office. All the actors worked hard to do their best performance. Like, it's not for me to, like, there's a difference between being like, oh, this show sucks, and me being like, hey, specific people who worked on it, I didn't like this. You know what I mean? Like, and there's a whole different vibe. The people yell at me when I tell the story of like, well, what I tell you I don't like up at noon, I'm trying to give you constructive criticism. And it's like, no, you're not, motherfucker. The constructive criticism, right, is being like, this punchline didn't work. If you would have retooled it this way, it would work. This was the big thing with the Dead Space 2 review, right, is like, I wrote this Dead Space 2 review because my editor-in-chief at the time, it was like, we're trying to do these like different personal reviews. So, and I wrote it and he's like, this is amazing. This is exactly what we want. It feels like you're talking to the audience. I'm like, yeah. And so we put it out and then it went on Reddit the next day and exploded. And like somebody, this is the first time I had ever learned about Reddit. Somebody came by like, do you know you're the top post on Reddit? I'm like, what's Reddit? And I'm like, oh, cool. And I go to it and it's in the headline is like, does anybody else think a middle schooler wrote IGN's Dead Space 2 review? And basically the first comment or first post was that. And then everybody like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's terrible. Blah, blah, blah. And so I wrote a blog and I was like, hey, man, here's my email. Like, give me constructive criticism. Tell me what's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, once that happened, like, only 20 people emailed me. There's, like, a famous image of this one guy who was a big dick and, like, went through and did all these different things. A lot of their things were, like, again, it was, like, they were, like, treating it like an AP science paper, right? Whereas I was like, it's a video game review. I'm going to talk. But, like, I don't mind engaging, and I know that I can learn and be better at something every time. I mean, you look at the YouTube videos we upload, right? Like, tell me how to edit audio better. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's tons of things.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between, hey, this is what's wrong, and I don't like this because, and just, you suck.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently had someone in my comment section that was like, oh, Trisha's a fake whore, and I know this, and someone else was like, how do you know? You don't know who she is. And he was like, this person's like, I know her in real life.
Oh, yeah?
And I commented, and I was like, oh, well, if you know me in real life, I'd appreciate it if you would come speak to me in person about it like an adult instead of hiding behind an anonymous username.
Right. That's always the big thing, yeah. And the other stories I always talk about, right, is the fact that, again, with the whole vocal minority, silent majority, is the fact that, like, people will talk crap about me, about IGN, about whatever, and then I go to every domestic show, PAX East, Comic-Con, yada, yada, yada. No one in 7.5 years has ever come up and been like, hey, man, I don't like what you do. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's wrong with it. Everybody comes up and is so, like, blown away to meet me or see me or, you know what I mean, take a photo with me. And, like,
I mean, you are a huge deal.
No, yeah, I don't mean like that. No, shut up. I don't mean it like that. I just mean in the way that, no one's ever, like, coming up and, like, trying to talk shit to you. You know what I mean? Like, they are all cowards, and when you're in a real life situation, that's when it all balances out, right? Of like, you would never walk up to somebody and say, hey, you're such a stupid, you horrible things. And you know what I mean? You don't talk to people that way.
And you should probably die. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, of course.
You should probably die. Like, your whole family should just die because I agree with your opinion in this one video.
Right.
It's
a weird world. It's a weird job.
But the internet allows us so much freedom and, like you said, communication and an open forum and the ability to connect with other people. And, I remember when the internet was first a thing in my life, I just completely saw it as this is a way for me to do the things that I'm not normally allowed to do.
Yeah.
Which I think is why you see so many people spewing those hate comments. Or, I mean, for me, it was like, I'm not allowed to talk to strangers, but I can on the internet.
Right.
I'm not allowed to read this kind of stuff, but I can on the internet.
Yeah.
So you get those people that are like, well, I'm not allowed to be a dick, but I can be on the internet.
100% true. Yeah, that's the big thing, right? And I think that there's always that freedom that comes with it, and that, you know, we're involved with an industry that skews very young and brings in people who are young, and so they're back to where I was when me and my stupid friends would get on AOL and like find the sex chat rooms and go in there and be like, oh my, what are these people talking about? I'll fake it. We're 35. Hello, you know what I mean? Like
we all did that. Yeah, I was naked and 35 then too.
Yeah, it's just, you know, now it's such a different landscape. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to do with, like, when I email the dean. I'm not emailing the kid to get him in trouble. I'm emailing them like he's in college and doesn't grasp the fact that there is no more anonymity, really. You are linked to everything forever, and people are going to check your Facebook posts and go through your photos and see these horrible things that you posted. And granted, it's crazy to think about, like, what, in 2 generations the president will have had a Facebook. And, like, the amount of thing you're going to go through to find, like, you're not going to have to go back to be like, oh, well, that person made a mistake. You know, you remember when Clinton, you know, he smoked it, but he didn't inhale and stuff. And that was just a story. They made photos of that for the next president. And they'll never be able to get away from that. And, like, people need to understand what they're doing now impacts what they're doing later.
Absolutely. Well, it's like all those teachers that you see getting fired because they, like, took a naked selfie once or an underwear selfie once, and it's on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've been talking a lot about, like, the negative aspects of the internet, but good can be done there, too. And speaking 100%. Of that, Greg, are you familiar with the extralife.org charity?
Oh, yeah. I'm totally familiar with Extra Life. Great charity. Doc Adams. He's in charge of it.
Nice. Do you know him?
I do, yeah. We did it a few years ago. I organized it for IGN, and we did this giant live stream.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of our viewers, one of our Naked Army members, Brent Sanchez, is doing an Extra Life this year, and he asked me if I would help spread the word, so I'm going to put the link to that down in the description. I'm also donating some autographed prints and some autographed T-shirts and stuff that are going to be prizes for the people that donate to his cause, so make sure you go check that out. And the question that we can ask, let's see, Greg, what do we want to ask the Naked Army this week?
We want...
About the internet.
About the internet. So we were talking about there's a lot of good. What's the best thing that's you've ever seen happen on the internet? What's your most heartwarming internet story? That's
perfect. Let's love the internet a little. We need to cuddle it after we kind of flogged it.
Talk about all the bad stuff, yeah.
So, Greg, thank you once again for joining us this week on The Naked Truth and being my first naked dude.
Yeah, Naked Dude. That's going to be my spin-off show.
The Naked Dude. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
Oh, you can find me, of course, at IGN.com, where I host a show called Up at Noon every Monday and a whole bunch of other crap. And then you can go to YouTube.com/GameOverGreggy, where I host all sorts of videos like the GameOverGreggy show, filmed here on our luxurious set, and I also review Oreos there.
I've seen it. It's pretty good.
Thank you. If we ever get a DVD box set, I've seen it.
I've seen it. It's pretty good. But seriously, you guys should go check out Greg on his channel. Check out Up at Noon if you haven't seen it. But who hasn't seen Up at Noon? Come on, please. And make sure to suggest future Naked Truth topics in the comments section. And if you'd like to send in your own naked vlog and join the Naked Army, please feel free to do that. No private parts, from the shoulders up only, please. And thank you. And you can send that to me in the About section of my channel for business inquiries only. You are my business inquiries. All right, thank you guys so much. Thank you again, Greg, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.